Hey guys, welcome to this special live stream edition of Horror Timelines. I said recently, not that long ago, that I was going to try to do some more live presentations, and I thought this would be kind of a fun day to do so. So I got a couple of things to talk about. Hopefully, you guys can hear me okay, right? Everyone can hear me all right. I hope so. But I thought that I should talk about some of the more recent horror movies that have been coming out and that I have been watching, as well as talk about a couple of other things. Come on up, come on up. But I definitely would like to do some more live stuff for you guys. And apparently, I have a cattail on my face. But yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but I work in specific blocks of time. Basically, the way I structure my time frame is I will have research weeks, and what research weeks are, it's basically a whole week where I just spend all of my work time watching horror movies, taking notes on horror movies, and doing research on those movies. And those are things that are specifically for the channel. They're movies that I've gotten specifically to cover for one reason or another. And that's all I'll watch, and I'll just research. And then I usually spend a good solid week after that recording. So I'll set up my green screen. I have the whole studio area, and I will just record a bunch of different episodes all at once. And usually if I have like in between stuff to shoot, I'll do that as well. So it's just kind of just filming a lot. But then I have editing weeks, and I'm in an editing week right now. This is an editing week. And what I do during editing weeks is I just edit all of the videos together. They takes a lot longer to do that. And while I am editing, that's when I will have other horror movies up in the background. I have this computer right here, which is my work computer. I have this computer over here, which is my watching movies computer. And I'll watch a lot of the things that are coming out now just to kind of be up on some of the more current horror movies and watch things that I'm not watching for the channel. Those are movies that I'm specifically just watching for the hell of it. Now, I may end up covering some of the movies that I've watched later on because I might watch something and be like, that was a really weird movie. I should probably cover that in like a weird movie list or something like that. And I will make notes on it in order to do that. But, other than that, we'll do it there. But I want to say welcome to you guys, saying hello to everybody over there in the thank you for putting up in the chat. I will be answering some questions if you have some questions on the chat as well, too. But one thing I wanted to cover that was an interesting thing to point out. One thing I wanted to talk about really quick and give you some extra stats that I had on, which is kind of fun, was last week I posted up a Dead Last video, which was the Dead Last of the first movie of the kind of most well-known horror franchises. And I covered those and then their remakes. And in the comment sections, there was actually a lot of comments about people that were not quite happy that the none of the remakes beat any of the originals, and there were some people kind of like talking smack on some of the originals, and some people, which is fine because I mean, if you don't like the originals and you like the remake better, I'm not mad at you. That's your prerogative. You can like whatever you like. But one thing that there seemed to be a lot of comments out there talking about how they thought that people weren't being honest with their opinions and that they were just biased, and like even though they liked a remake better, they still didn't rank it higher because either I thought they should or they thought they should. And I'm not a big fan of that concept because I think it's kind of taking away somebody's voice and kind of presupposing their opinion. But because of that, there's something that I wanted to share with you. Except my notes are gone. Where's my notes? Here we go. So this was pretty wild. And when it came down to the remakes versus the originals, there was quite a few stats in there that I thought were pretty wild. But here's the thing. There was several people that were saying that this remake should have been higher because everyone I talk to likes this one more than the other, blah, 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 blah. So let's start with the least egregious out of them. And the one that was the dead last. So this is an interesting thing. When it came down to the Nightmare on Elm Street Dead Last, the Dead Last movie, the remake, 0 out of 166 people put the Dead Last remake over the original. No one thought the original was better. And oh, look, Derek is here as well too to let us know that I coerced him with money, which everyone knows that I did not have to offer Derek one dime to slam a remake over the original. You are very transparent in that, sir. But no. So the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, 0 out of 166 people put that above the original. And there was, between the original and the remake, a 1,076 point spread. So that is the biggest and boldest variation of the two. The second biggest variation was one of the ones that seemed to get some of the flack in the comments, which was the Halloween remake. Some people were kind of mad that movie didn't get higher, but it was only 10 people out of 166. Only 10 people gave that higher than the original. So that's only 6%. 6% of the people voting thought that the original was better than, thought that the remake was better than the original. And there was an 864 point spread between those two movies. Very broad. The Child's Play remake, which also got some bad scores, only 11 out of 166 people ranked that higher than the original. 7% gave that higher than the original, and it was a 639 point spread. So those were the three that I think didn't have the most conflict. Now, the two that had the most conflict were these two. The biggest one was one of the biggest ones was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, which a lot of people were upset didn't beat any of the originals. But that one, again, out of 166 people, only 34 people thought that the remake was better than the original. Only 34 out of 166 people thought that the Texas Chainsaw remake was better than the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's only 20% of people. Only 20% of people thought that it was better. That's a 330 point spread between the two movies. So, I don't think that many people were simply biased and just thought that the remake was better, but just wanted to put the original higher, whatever. But there. And then the biggest contention was the Friday the 13th remake. And there was several people that were very mad that the remake didn't beat the original, and they thought that that was wrong. But I just wanted to kind of give the stats on that. Out of 166 people, only 49 people thought that the remake was better than the original. That's only 30%. So 3 out of 10 people thought that the remake was better than the original of Friday the 13th, which I thought was pretty interesting. And it had a 241 point spread between the original and the remake, which is, it was not close. It wasn't like the remake just barely lost out, but so clearly did not deserve to be up higher. So again, the thing is if you're in the comments and you're thinking that the people the panel was biased or whatever like that, and that's what swayed it. Again, the whole Dead Last was built off of 166 rankings. That's a lot. It's a lot of people to be biased out there. And then again, the key thing there too is I think that it's funny because Captain Columbo's here saying he promises not to argue, but we don't argue when it comes to Dead Last. We discuss. But no, Captain Columbo was very curious because he wanted things like Psycho to be up on the roster. But the theme of the thing maybe I should have said this in the actual episode, but it was in the call to action. But the whole point of that Dead Last was not so much just originals versus remakes, but it was like, I think if you go to people, if you grab somebody on the street and you say, "Hey, person, do you watch horror movies?" And they say, "Yes, I watch horror movies." And then you say to them, "Cool. Who are the biggest icons in horror?" 8 out of 10 of those people are going to say Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers. And then if you ask them to expand it a little bit more, they're probably going to say Leatherface. They're going to say Chucky, and they're going to say probably Pinhead. Maybe Candyman. I don't know. So the whole thing is you had those big 3 and then extending it out to like the big 5. So it was kind of like more that, more so than it was like big movies of horror. Because yes, Psycho is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Somebody mentioned Dawn of the Dead should be on there as well too. Again, Dawn of the Dead I think is one of the greatest horror movie of all. It's excellent movie, but it's not like people. Again, you grab somebody off the street and you say, "Give me an icon of horror," and they're not going to say Peter from Dawn of the Dead. No, it's not happening. They're not going to say the Hare Krishna zombie. So the whole key of that was who are like the big ones. We're going to be doing another interesting thing, actually. There'll be an official announcement for it a little bit later on. And since Derek is here, it's kind of funny because I haven't even asked him about it yet. But the next panel one that I want to do is going to be I'm going to ask everybody, all of YouTube, to rank me off your 10 favorite franchises of horror that are not the big 3. So I think it's pretty interesting to see that. And so again, that's something I'm going to be asking for you. It's still like 2 months away, so don't worry about that. But yeah, it was great to have the panel back. I was super happy to have all those guys back. It's great to have them appear in anything. And anytime I can, I would love it. So anyhow, let me see if there's anything over here in the comments from you guys real quick before I get to talking about some of the more recent horror flicks that I've seen. Domingo Jr. said, long time joining live, how I'm doing. I'm doing pretty well. Actually, things have been pretty good lately. It's been a really, really jam-packed holiday season here at the house with everybody. It has been kind of a nightmare for me getting things done. I was very far behind on my content going into the holiday, but actually as soon as January 1st hit, I went into like full bore production mode. So I'm now actually pretty decently ahead, just to kind of give you guys a heads up on how far ahead I work. All of the January episodes, they're already online. They're just waiting to come up. Every single February episode has been fully researched, scripts written, and every single February episode has been shot. I'm now editing every single February episode. I should actually be done with the February episodes by the middle of next week. The only episode that I won't have complete is the Dead Last episode for February, because that we haven't even the deadline for that is not up yet. So the patrons that are voting on this episode, which is found footage horror, sort of the best of found footage, that's what they're voting on right now. They're watching those movies and submitting their rankings. Those are due next Friday. After that, I'll shoot and edit and blah blah blah. So yeah, it's been pretty crazy schedule trying to get out there. So Smooth Adventure saying it was awesome to see the panel back, and I loved having the panel back. I do not love editing the panel. It is one of the hardest things to edit down. It's such a pain. As soon as this is the first time we've done like a panel episode in like 2 years, and pulling all those files in and laying them out in the editing software and then going back and going, oh my God, this is crazy. It's so much more complicated to juggle and edit and set all that up than it is to just do me reading from a script. Very difficult. So yes, it was great to have them back, but oh my God, I don't miss doing that every month. So it will be nice. I do want to continue to do some panels. We will be doing some panels again later on, but it will not be a monthly thing. And Derek says, apologies to those who don't like the panels. But, how do you not like the panels? They're more fun. So Captain Columbo also said, did you see the most recent version of Lot 249? I haven't yet. I do actually have that in my roster, but I have not yet watched it. So we'll be checking that out within the near future. And Peter Danier actually says in Stan Helsing's, they parodied the Vikings and they had those 5 plus Hellraiser. So yeah, I think those are, I think that like Chucky, I think Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers are like those 3. And then, yes, I think that the secondary ones are Chucky, Leatherface, and Pinhead. To me, that's who I think of as sort of the big, like, icons, the modern Universal horror monsters. And I say modern, knowing that most of those characters are like about 40 years old now. But yes, I'm not exactly there. So the question is, do you think a failure to launch on the Keep? A failure to launch is on indefinite hiatus. I don't know if I'll be bringing it back. It is not a very popular show. I like doing it, but I think that the fact that I'm focusing on one movie, I will tell you the other reason. There's another reason for not doing failure to launch outside of that. Failure to launch, those episodes, for some reason, seem to draw the largest attention of copyright claimers. My failure to launch episodes have gotten the most copyright claims and hassle. And copyright hassle is, on YouTube, it is such a nightmare to deal with. And YouTube's system for combating copyright claims, particularly fraudulent copyright claims, is not the best. But over the years, I've kind of figured out how to deal with it and how to kind of word myself that I know what I'm talking about. Because what I do on my channel does not violate anybody's copyright. It is very clearly fair use. And I am transforming the original content to a pretty great degree. And that's one of the things that really comes into play. And it's more about learning the legal jargon that is kind of necessary to kind of get around it. I think the YouTube claimers very much prey on those that don't really know the copyright laws and rules. So they get a copyright claim and they just go, oh, darn it. Oh, well, I guess I'm breaking copyright. And then they just roll with it. And then whoever claims to copyright then gets that ad money and revenue from them, which, it's not valid. Thankfully, I've learned my ways around it and have basically figured out how to combat it and to stand up for my rights. Because, again, I'm not breaking any copyright rules. So there you go. Let's see. Flywheel. We'll be talking about this shortly. I'll be talking about that in just a little bit here. But here we go. Ever plan a list of fan films, hundreds of Friday versions on YouTube and Nightmare stuff as well? I have actually toyed around with that because I've seen quite a few Friday the 13th fan films. And there are a couple out there that are pretty interesting. But I will also say that I think that there's some channels out there that focus a lot on fan films, and I feel like their passion for it is a little stronger than mine. I'm not that passionate about fan films, so I don't think that I have the excitement of that. But I would like to cover them in some way or another at some point. I know that when I did the Friday the 13th timeline redo, I covered Never Hike Alone. I put that in there as one of the things to consider for the timeline. But I don't. That's a maybe. Arkham Knight Rider wants to know if I want to plan to cover the Puppet Master comics. I do. I don't know when. I read them. I have a script for them. Did I finish the script? I don't know if I finished the script. But I don't know when that's coming out. I think you'll probably see a Puppet Master Unanswered Questions before you see a Puppet Master comic before a comic book timeline. But yeah, it's going to happen. I definitely think that's going to happen. A Puppet Master Unanswered Questions I'm looking forward to. I know the rules, the Major Blazer. You're average. There, don't kill me. But yeah, so let's talk really quick about some recent movies. Because again, like I said, when I'm editing, I'm usually watching some current movies that I'm watching. And sometimes I put things off a little bit much. And I know this year I put things off quite a bit. So there was quite a few movies from 2023 that I didn't watch until just like about a week ago or so. But I think I got caught up on a lot of the more recent movies. So I'm going to talk about some of them today. I'm not going to be spoiler heavy, so you don't have to worry if you haven't seen these movies. I'm not going to be revealing major plot points of the movies, so I will avoid that. And I appreciate it if you guys keep the spoilers out of the comments as well, too, just for the sake of those that have not seen the movies. But so the first movie that I'm going to talk about is one that I watched about 2 weeks ago. Let me see if I can do this here. There we go. Is Talk to Me, which was one of the more popular movies of 2023. It actually did quite well. I think it was one of the bigger hits of the year in terms of horror, and I know it was very critically acclaimed. And I know that it was from a YouTuber as well, too, a YouTuber channel that got funding to do a movie through A24, and they made Talk to Me. And I actually enjoyed Talk to Me quite a bit. I'm not going to be a naysayer on this and be like, I think that all those people are full of crap. I will say, though, that I don't think that I liked it as much as some others did. My biggest problem with the movie was the first hour or so feels pretty fresh. They're doing some cool and different things with the whole party game aspect of it and with the hand and talking to the ghosts. It felt very fun and different. And then the movie does take a turn. It takes a pretty sharp turn. There's one fairly major incident that happens in the movie that kind of shifts the focus of the film. And I do feel from that point on, it kind of feels a little bit more like a standard Blumhouse ghost movie, and does a lot of already seen before. So as it goes into the kind of climax of the movie, there was quite a bit. I started to lose my interest. I was like, okay, the things that I really liked about this movie are now gone. And now it's kind of turned into this other kind of movie that I'm not that into. So it had a solid 20 minutes, half hour block that I was less interested. It was still well done. It didn't become a bad movie, but it just became a movie that I was less interested in. Thankfully, though, the very finale of the movie, the very ending of the movie, which I will not spoil here, managed to bring it back. It had one hell of an ending that didn't exactly surprise me, but it was definitely a very thought-provoking and very interesting ending, and very well done. But a solid movie. I don't know if I would say that it was like my favorite movie of the horror movie of the year, but it was very good. Good job. I think I gave it a 3.5 on Letterboxd, I believe is what my score for it was, and a 3.5 out of 5. I think that's a pretty fair score for that one. The next movie I'm going to talk about is something that I watched about 3 days ago, and it is Fog City. So, Fog City. If you're not familiar with this one, this is by Steve Walsh. And the reason why I want to talk about this one is because this guy apparently has the keys to a major franchise now. Steve Walsh made a couple of movies before that were not good. He made a movie called Muck, and then he made another movie called Kill Her Goats. And Kill Her Goats is one of the most head-scratchingly confusing, what is the point of this movie except half-naked women dancing around for the majority of it, which, don't get me wrong, that's not something I don't want to see, but it's, if I'm watching a horror movie, that's not necessarily what I would like to see. Fog City is his latest film. And it is, I would say, a step up from Killer Goats. It's certainly more coherent, but it is not really what I would call that great. It's a pretty much single location movie because the whole movie takes place in a house. I'll give you the basic gist of the plot is a bunch of people go to have a big party at a house, and all of a sudden there's a big fog outside, much like The Mist, and they, for some reason, just all assume that it is a chemical leak from the one girl's father's plant, and that they automatically assume that if they breathe in the fog that they will go insane, and then they start to go insane, and then you have to wonder, is it the fog that's making them insane or the isolate? It's not good. It's everyone becomes way too crazy, way too fast. Nothing makes any sense. It kind of relies upon a really dumb twist, and it's just not great. And yeah, several people have asked about what franchise does he have. Steve Walsh is reported to be handling I don't know if it's going to be a remake or a requel or whatever, but he is going to be making the new Return of the Living Dead movie that they're reporting on. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. Hope it doesn't, because from what I've seen from this guy so far, he does not have the skill level or the right, like, Return of the Living Dead is a franchise that you have to approach from a very specific way. And I personally, my personal belief, what made the first Return of the Living Dead so great was that sort of punk rock sensibility to it, like that sort of punk and metal like temperament that was very of the time. And my fear is that he's going to try to make something with the punk and metal temperament of now, but I don't know if it's going to really translate, because I don't feel as if it has that same sort of like vibe that it had, that anti-establishment vibe that it had back then. So I don't think that it's going to be that great. Yes, I agree. I do think it will be better than Return of the Living Dead Part 4 and 5. But, I mean, really, what's that saying? What's that saying? But yeah, Derek's sentiment of Dear God is exactly how I feel. But yeah. Plus, I don't think punk means anything anymore. Like, I think that even when somebody says punk rock now, and like even me as a big fan of punk rock, but it's like when you're talking about punk rock now, it still sounds like the punk rock of the 80s, and that's not the spirit of punk rock. Punk rock should sound like something very different at this point, something that kind of breaks all the rules. And if punk rock has an established sound, then that's a rule. So yeah, I don't know, getting a little bit too philosophical at this particular point. All right, let's go on to the next movie. Our next film here that I watched was surprising. Not super surprising, but it was Ghost Babe. I put this one up here because when I saw the title Ghost Babe, and saw it was a modern movie, I thought it was going to be this silly, cheesy, soft-core kind of thing that was more like one of the modern David Duchovny films or something like that, where it was just basically a bunch of girls in bikinis or a ghost in bikini or whatever like that. But it ended up being something very different. It's actually a lot more wholesome of a film than you would think from a movie called Ghost Babe. And it has this weird, bizarre surfer dude sensibility to it. It's definitely more of a horror comedy than it is anything else. But it's basically, a bunch of surfer dudes, a bunch of like really dumb surfer dudes, like think Bill and Teddy kind of characters, rent out a big party house, and they find out very quickly that it's haunted by a woman that was killed a long time ago, and she is possessing and killing and trying to solve her own murder. And it's actually funnier than I thought it was going to be, and it's actually like a sort of a little bit of a sweeter movie than I thought it was going to be. And it's not a great movie. It's not really doing much that you haven't seen before, but it was just, I was not expecting it to be even halfway decent, and it's halfway decent. I liked it. I would give it. I didn't say what I gave Fog City. I gave Fog City a 2 out of 5. I'm going to give Ghost Babe a 3 out of 5. And it was enjoyable. It's not one I would like recommend. It's not one I'd be like, go see Ghost Babe. But if somebody was just like, I'm watching Ghost Babe later, am I going to like it? I'd be like, yeah, you'll like it. So, don't go out of your way to see it. But if it ends up being on in front of you, you don't have to shut it off. The final movie I'm going to talk about today is the one that I just watched 2 nights ago, and it's the one that's the freshest on my mind. It's the one that I kind of feel the strongest about, and it's the one that's already been mentioned, and it's When Evil Lurks. And this was on a lot of best of lists for the year, and I was excited to watch it. I was kind of like, all right, well, a lot of people really, really into this movie. Let me strap in and check it out. And I got to tell you, I'm watching this movie, and from the first 10 minutes, I'm sucked in. And if you've seen this movie, you know that this movie basically starts on like a 7, and it just does not slow down. I mean, the quietest it gets is like a 5, but then it goes right back up to like an 8. This movie just steamrolls its plot and just keeps going. It's just one thing after another. And it's just like really pulls you in, and it creates this world, right? Because it's very clear from like the very early scenes that there are things that are different in this world than they are in the world that we're in. So it's establishing its own universe, right? And it does it pretty easily, and it does it pretty quickly, and it doesn't have to spell it out for you. It just kind of lets you figure out, okay, this is a world where like demon possessions are a fairly common thing, and there's people out there whose job it is to eliminate them and all that. And you kind of figure that out over time. Now, here's the thing, though. This is where I broke down, because I have never had a movie have me so much in the palm of its hands and have me so fully engrossed in it and being like, this is the best movie I've seen of the year. I love this so much. And then just completely drop the ball in like the last 20 minutes, because the movie just had they had a character that made some sort of mistakes in the beginning parts of the movie. And they established this character is not like, not the brightest of people. And then just continue to have him do dumber and dumber things. And in the last 20 minutes, he makes, again, I'm avoiding spoilers, he makes a decision that is so head-scratchingly, wait, why are you doing this? And just keeps making dumb choices to the point that I lost it. It lost me. And it did not get me back from that point on. It's a very interesting movie. It does some great stuff, but it had to like trip over itself in order to give itself the ending that it wanted to give. And I think from a writing aspect, it did not work for me, because it just didn't go. But great movie. I wanted to give it a 4 or a 4.5 because of how broken down I was from the ending. I'm only giving it a 3.5. I wish that I liked this one more, because I will watch this movie again in a heartbeat. I would watch this movie again tonight. It's a really good flick, but then just the ending it really lost me. It very, very much lost me in a big, big way. So anyway, those are the movies I have slides for. I've actually watched a bunch more movies. I just watched 2 movies this morning while editing that I don't have posters up for. So I don't have anything to for the visual aspect of presentation. But yeah, I did watch a movie called Ghost Project, which was a very short movie that was sort of a Ghostbustery kind of thing, I guess. Was not very good. Not much to say about it in general. And I watched again a very forgettable movie called Woman in the Maze, which again, very forgettable. Just a woman in a haunted house and she can't get out and people can't see her or hear her and she just has to try to figure out how to get out. And it's the same old stuff. You've seen it 100 times. Nothing very exciting and nothing too thrilling. I will tell you that I've also watched a couple of non-horror movies recently. And yeah, you know how I talk about worst movies I've ever seen? And it's kind of funny because whenever I'm doing an interview, whenever somebody's interviewing me or whatever like that, I feel like the question that very often comes up is, what's the worst movie that you've had to watch for the channel? What's the absolute worst movie that you've had to watch for the channel? And my answer is usually one of the Transformers movies, because I would rather watch any like Polonia movie than any Transformers movie any day. Now I could have a new movie to throw out there, even though I did not watch it for the channel. But one of the worst movies I've seen in recent history is Wonka, which is so gut-wrenchingly terrible. And I think that it's especially terrible because it's made by the guy that made Paddington and Paddington 2. And I thought those movies were adorable. Watched those movies with Stella, and Stella loved them. Well, she was much smaller, and I really liked them. And so when that guy was making Wonka, I was like, maybe it'll be all right. I don't know. So me and Christy and Stella sat down the other night to watch this movie, and Christy fell asleep. Stella got so disinterested she left the room. And for some reason, I stayed and finished it. And it is the emptiest, most hollow, fakest film I have seen. It is a bunch of people in a large green screen studio pretending like they're talking to people that aren't there, pretending that they're looking at things that aren't there. And none of it feels real. One of the worst movies I've seen in recent history. One of the movies I've seen in recent history is last night I watched Aquaman 2, which I really don't have anything to say about it except that it is an Aquaman movie. There's a guy that swims around in the water and fights people. And basically, when I say to you Aquaman 2 and you just picture in your head something, that's what the movie is, and it does nothing more than exactly what you're picturing in your head. There you go. Sally wants to know how bad is the latest Transformers movies, and I sadly can't say it. I have not seen the new Transformers movie. I probably will not unless I have to for the channel. I'm not into action movies that aren't silly exploitative action movies. Like if I'm going to watch an action movie, it has to be something like, ridiculous. These kind of modern slick action movies, the Fast and Furious style things like that, I have genuinely no interest in. They're just not what I want to watch. It's not what I'd rather watch, two guys filming a fight in their backyard is what I would rather watch than I would want to see a modern action movie. So I haven't seen it, although I have heard that it's not bad. I've heard that it's pretty enjoyable in terms of the Transformers movies, but it's still, to me, that's like somebody saying like it's a bee sting, but it doesn't hurt that bad. I still don't want a bee sting. Thank you. I'll pass. But yeah, the next week I go into a research mode where I'm watching things for research. I'll give you guys a couple of spoilers. I'm beginning to watch a bunch of Phantom of the Opera ripoffs. I'm looking forward to watching a lot of those because there's quite a few that are pretty fun. I know sometimes when I go into these things, I'm like not looking forward to some of the things that I have to watch, but I'm actually very much looking forward to this. There's quite a few in there that I know that I love, and there's a couple in there that are really like so good they're bad, or so bad they're good, kind of things. So I'm looking forward to watching some of those. And again, 80s projects. I have a lot of things to watch for the 80s project, and also the 30s project, which I'm going to start watching movies from 1933. The 30s project 1932 is actually going up next Friday. That is fully shot and edited and ready to go. That a lot of good stuff on there. But yeah, a lot of good stuff in my future to watch. Smoothie Convention wants to know about ever considered a list of giant bugs like them and eight-legged freaks. Yeah, I have I don't have it on my schedule, but I have notes for doing a movie about nature a list about nature gone wild, things like slugs and ticks and stuff like that. I'd probably put that into that same sort of category of things. I mean, guys, if you could see, I mean, I have a list here. This is my sort of notepad here. Like this is like all, that's the wrong thing. Oh, what did I just do here? Okay, well, it's like a whole thing. These are all like ideas that I have of just random things. And like, there's cancel. I have another round of Terminator ripoffs I'd love to do. I have another round of I don't know when. I got to find out what the release date for Furiosa is, but I definitely want to do a Mad Max ripoff list, as well as a Mad Max timeline, things like that. All these kind of things. I have a couple of weird esoteric kind of things too. Like I want to do a video about the really weird. I don't know if you guys are familiar with 1440. There's a what is it? Universal 1440. There's a production studio, and it's called 1440, and they basically. I'm looking for that note. They've been putting out these really insane. Like, wait, why are you making a sequel to that movie that no one cared about? Like, they made R.I.P.D. 2. They made Kindergarten Cop 2. All these things from like 20, 30 years ago, and they're just like pulling these projects out of thin air and being like, well, let's just make a sequel to this. Like they made a sequel to like Bulletproof. It was like the movie with like Adam Sandler, and they just made a sequel to it. And that's really, it's weird. Like, I mean, I feel like it's a gigantic tax dump. I don't know what's going on with that whole thing, but I kind of want to do a video where I'm like looking into all that, but I don't really have any set dates for that, but that is coming up there. This is actually a very good question because this is something that I really want to do. A monster list for Cabin in the Woods, the same way I did with the Waxworks video. I absolutely want to do that. I don't have it set on my agenda, but after I did that Waxworks video, where it was the freeze framing of trying to figure out exactly which monster was which and which victim was which and who was this and where was that. I want to do that. I'd love to do that same thing with Cabin in the Woods. There's more information out there about that one. So I think it'll be a little bit easier to identify some of those things, but it should be a lot of fun to kind of figure that out. Plus, I got some inside scoop because I think Mikey helped sculpt some of them. I know he sculpted that unicorn. So I don't even know. I don't know if Derek is still with us, but I don't know if Derek worked on that one or not. But I know Mikey did. So yeah, we'll see that. We'll see what that is. But yes, NCB is right. 1440 also did the Chucky films. They did they're the ones that came back with Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky. So again, not all of their sequels were like complete wastes of energy. But I guess I can't really say that about some of the ones that they did release, because I don't know if Bulletproof has a built-in fan base or not. Maybe it does. I don't know. But yeah, I do. I love that Waxwork video was one of my favorite things to research, because I love that movie so much. And the thing that makes me angry about that video is that I did not, because of the timing of it, I did not film it in front of the Waxworks house, which I've been to several times, and it's not that terribly far away. It's just in Hollywood. It's just a 40-minute drive from here, but 20 minutes if there's no traffic. But so I regret that I was unable to do that. If I could do it all over again, I would probably go and be in front of that house, because it's a cool looking house. It's very cool. But yeah, that will be out there. And before I get going, because I'll probably get going in just a few minutes here, I'll give you guys a couple of brief previews of what's coming up. This Friday, just 2 days from now, you will get the newest episode of the 80s Project. It is episode 4 of 1982, which will feature our annual, at this particular point, our annual visit to Camp Crystal Lake, which I think is great. On Monday, you're getting a new ripoff list, which is another classic monster. I know I've done, Frankenstein's, I've done Dracula's, I've done mummies. Figure it's time to keep on going and doing some ripoffs of those classic Universal monsters. So you're getting another one of those guys in their ripoff movies on Monday. I won't tell you which one, but you'll see, or maybe you won't see, on Monday. Then next Friday, it's the Return of the 30s Project, and since a lot of people were not happy about the audio filter that was used on the one version, it will be it's going to be it'll be clean audio. So if you hated the audio filter that was on the last one, there will be the audio filter will be present on the intro and outro, but it will not be during the discussion of the movies. So, but there. What else have you got coming up? There's another list of really weird horror movies that I found. For Valentine's Day, you're getting a special Valentine's Day kind of horror list, and and then just some fun stuff coming up there. But yeah, I'm excited about that. Let's see, the movie we want to see cover more in the 80s Project is Incubus. The Incubus is actually, if it's the same Incubus, because there's actually a couple movies called Incubus, but there is Incubus, or the Incubus, whatever they want to call it, because it's named as both movies. That is actually coming up in episode 5 of the 80s Project for 1982. So that'll be in the February episode, which is coming up February 16th. We'll be covering Incubus. So that's pretty cool. Any plans for timelines on Shockwaves? I don't really. But, so the weird thing is that the core timelines video, which are just timelines of just a franchise, there's going to be less of those, because they seem to, number one, I've kind of tapped out on all of the franchises of note, and a lot of the franchises that are left are things that are not very, they don't have a big audience for, but there will still be timelines, but they'll just be fewer and fewer, probably maybe one a month of them. People just don't seem to be that into them. They don't get a lot of views. They're just, people don't have the general interest. There will be some. I am planning on covering the Plaga Zombie movies in March. In February, I'm doing a weird timeline to honor the 40th or 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. So there'll be something in there. But for the most part, I'll be pulling back a little bit on just plain timelines. I might do a couple of redos of some things that need to be redone. But in general, there'll probably be a little bit less, but they will still exist. It's just not as I just don't have as many to cover, so it's kind of tough. So we'll see. But yeah, but yes, this is true. The only big three franchises left are Hostel, Poltergeist, and Fear Street. And yes, that's true. Poltergeist I believe it or not, I have a script for Poltergeist. I actually watched all the movies and wrote a script, but I haven't actually put it on the schedule. I'll probably end up doing that a little bit later this year. I do want to go to the Poltergeist house for that one, which is not. It's like an hour drive. It's not super far. It's not super close, but it's not terrible to get to. I would like to go up there to film that and be on the location, which I will probably end up doing at some point. And yeah, what was the other? Oh yeah, so there are, believe it or not, there's a lot. There's a lot of things left I haven't covered, but they're just things that I haven't done. I'll tell you exactly what I have in my notes that I have not covered. There's Carrie, there's Hostel, Mirror Mirror, Poltergeist, War of the Worlds, The Brotherhood, Troublesome Night, The 2000 Maniacs, Interview with a Vampire, the Nashi movies. The Nashi one is actually one I'll probably do somewhat soon. Toolbox Murders, Coffin Joe. I'll probably be doing Coffin Joe sometime in the near future. I would love to do Coffin Joe. Shake, Rattle, and Roll, which has like 17 movies. There's a whole lot of those. And then, of course, there's a lot of like mini timelines as well, too, like Firestarter, Creep, Houses October Built, Unfriended, Wolf Creek, The Boy. There's a lot of like mini timelines, but mini timelines, again, same thing. People just don't seem to don't have to have a ton of interest. Wrong Turn timelines. There is definitely a Wrong Turn timeline on the channel. I think that the new one did come out since then, but it's not really. It's completely unconnected, so it's not something that I'm chomping at the bit to do a redo of. But yeah, Hammer Dracula. There's definitely I definitely have a video on those. I love my video on those. There's actually that's one of the videos I got in the most trouble for because I sing Frozen in it and I sing Let It Go, and Disney got mad at me. But so we argued for a while, but eventually they dropped it. But what about Santo? Yeah, the El Santo at some point I would like to try that. That's kind of hard though because there's at least 2 or 3 of those that are lost forever. So it's hard. It's kind of hard to do it's hard to do a timeline on that because I won't be able to watch the movies. That would probably be pretty key. I'm not quite sure how essential viewing that the early Santo movies are to the main timeline, but so there you go. But yeah, I have the last question here. I've talked about the movie Sea Fever. I've not talked about Sea Fever. I have seen Fever. I have seen Sea Fever, and I liked it, but I have not covered it on anything. I haven't really found a place for that. Sometimes I would just watch a movie and there's really not anywhere that I can fit it in terms of a list or something like that. But a lot of times I'll do there. Count Yorga, I've definitely done. There is a Count Yorga, I believe, is in the mini timelines. In the mini timeline list, he's definitely in there. Which are the ones lost? I'm not too sure. I'd have to go back and look at the titles. But when I was researching El Santo movies and pulling the info for the wrestling list, they were talking about that there's, I think, like 15 or 17. There's a number of Santo movies, but I think there's like 3 or 4 that are lost. I believe I'd have to go back and look at that list. But so there you go. There's a 4th Terratoons. Are you going to update? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. In terms of the updates, the one thing I definitely want to update at this particular point, and the next update that you'll probably see, although I don't have it blocked out on my schedule, but the next update you'll probably see is a Child's Play timeline, which will cover the things that happened afterwards, because when I made that last video, I made my original Child's Play timeline before Cult came out. And, since then the Cult has come out and a TV show, and the TV show basically just completely upended the timeline. So there will be some things to discuss as well too. But so we'll get into that. The Hidden and Hidden 2 mini timeline, there is one of those on the channel as well. I forget where that is. I forget where that is. But the Hidden is definitely on there somewhere. I feel like it's in one of the mini timeline mania videos. It might be in that big 50th. It might be in that 50,000 subscriber video. I don't remember, but there's definitely the Hidden is on the channel somewhere. But yeah, definitely check that out. But yeah, okay, guys. Well, I'm gonna close out. I feel like I've covered everything I wanted to cover today. And I'm going to try to do these a little bit more frequently. I'd like the Wednesdays to sort of be like a live thing. But yeah, and it'd be very nice if Factory or Shutter would sponsor me. Appreciate it if those guys would, but I don't think that they will. But I don't know. We'll see. One last question here, Josh. I know you enjoy Buffy. What is your favorite and least favorite big bad? Man, that's a good question. Let's say that my least favorite is definitely Adam. Not an interesting big bad at all. I don't care about Adam. And I guess my favorite big bad would probably be Willow. It's the most interesting big bad that you're going to get. It's a good storyline. All right, guys. Working on another trivia challenge, maybe for next month. I'm not quite sure, but it will be one of those coming up in the near future. And also, one last thing to point out. If you haven't gotten your copy of the last Amityville Blu-ray yet, they are still available on SRS. Look how nice this looks. Look at how nice that looks. Oh my God. Ooh. It's very cool. It's very cool for me to actually see this in print and complete and done. But yeah, this is an actual professionally made Blu-ray of a movie that I made, that a lot of you guys helped me get funded, and it now exists, and you can get it on srscinema.com. I believe they are still only $19.95. There was supposed to be a limited run of only 100. Although I know that we've sold more than 100, so I don't think that is completely accurate. So if you want to order, you can absolutely. Check out the movie. I think it's a lot of fun. And I'll see you guys very soon. Bye-bye.